Hello and welcome to the first episode of the And Whatnot podcasts. I'm your host, Adam.
And I'm Sonja.
And we are going to talk about movies, media, and whatnot.
It's a very succinct title, really.
Yes, it is. First, I guess we can start off with introductions, I guess. Let's start off why we wanted to do a podcast. I was really just listening to a lot of podcasts lately and thought, hey, why not give it a shot? And that's pretty much my reasoning behind it. It was, I could probably do this. Now I just need to find some people to talk about things with. And that's where you came in.
And luckily, you have a sister who is right here and also likes podcasts. So I guess I would say I wanted to start a podcast for pretty much the same reason. I've been listening to them on and off for a couple of years. I used to have a very long commute to my work, so I had about an hour each way in the car to kill, so podcasts were definitely a way to fill that space. And you had mentioned that you wanted to start one, and I thought, hey, I can talk.
You sure can.
Oh, shut up. And I think people will learn this pretty quickly. We are siblings. I feel like that is a selling point because I can tell you to shut up, and it's okay. Because I've been doing it for like 23 years now.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, so I think our thesis statement of this podcast, we'll be talking a lot about movies, a lot about TV, because those are the two things that we really bond over. Sort of coming off the fact that we're siblings, we are 5 years apart, and I feel like through most of our lives we've been kind of out of sync with each other. Like, I know a bunch of my friends have siblings that are a year or 2 years apart from them, and they're always fighting, they're always whatever, and I think it's because they were in the same stage. We were just like a little out of sync.
Yeah,
I was 10 and you were 5. I was 15 and you were 10. Like, we're always just in a different place.
Yeah.
And I think movies and TV are something that we would always do together. Like, that's something that we both enjoyed all the time, no matter what was going on.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, a bunch of my friends had siblings like yours that were 2, maybe 3 years apart, and they would always be on each other's cases about everything. Like, oh, he did this, she did that, all that stuff. With us, we never really fought about anything like some siblings do. Yeah, we had like the, hey, that's mine, don't touch that. Hey, stop doing that, you're an idiot type deal.
I still say those things, so
yeah,
it's okay.
I know. But I never felt like we argued about things like some people, like some siblings do. So
No, I really agree. I feel like those sort of siblings, it's a lot of competition almost, especially if you're like the same gender sibling. Like, the people that I know who were girls and had a sister that was within 2 years of them, it was always competition. They wanted each other's stuff. They wanted, like, you're always fighting with attention for your parents. Like, even if you're not an attention-seeking person, you want, your parents to pay attention to both of you, and it's harder. And now I think I was alone for 5 years. I got a lot of attention, and so I didn't need that as much when you came along, kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, I never, to be fair to like mom and dad, like they never like showed favorites. Like, everybody's always gonna have a favorite child. That's just gonna happen. Of course it is. It's always gonna happen. But I never felt like there was a clear winner. Although we all know that it's you, so you don't have to say it again.
No, see, I feel like it's you because they would like maybe let me do things or not let me do things, but then the opposite for you. I think the funniest thing that stood out for me was my one friend wanted to watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show with me when I was in high school, and my mom wouldn't let me. I'm like, Mom, she's having a Halloween party. Like, everyone's going. And my mom's like, you're not watching that movie. It's too mature for you. And then, I sulk. I don't get to go to the party. And then, a couple years later, I think you were 14. And when this had happened, I think I was maybe 15. And so I come and I walk in the room and you and Mom are watching it together. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this inequitable treatment? Did I storm out? I think that's like something that stands out in my mind of, a case where they're just like, second child.
Or maybe in those 5 years or whatever, 4 or 5 years, she changed her mind. She was like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I should have let her. Oh well.
And then you benefit.
Exactly. Worst thing is, I don't even really like the movie.
I mean, it's interesting. I think it's one of those things you have to at least watch that movie at least once just to experience it. I can't say I'm a diehard. I don't know all those like things like you're supposed to throw things at the screen or do whatever. I don't really know that. I'm like, it was funny. It was all right.
Yeah. One way to describe that is definitely interesting.
That's what you always want to say when something's weird, but you're like, "Oh, this food you made for me is interesting. This is great."
Yeah, yeah. So, speaking of Rocky Horror Picture Show, Halloween just passed, and you had just moved. Did you get any kids coming around to the house or anything?
So that is a funny story. I got exactly one kid. There was one child that came to my house. Yeah, so we recently moved. So I kind of live in an area of town now. It's in a city, it's in a city, but it's a little spaced out. Like it's kind of like as you go to the edge of the country, when the houses are getting fewer and fewer between, kind of thing. But there's enough that you can still say you have neighbors and you have a block and whatever. That's kind of our situation. And most of the neighbors that I see out in their yards are kind of older, like middle age. I'm obviously like late 20s, so we don't quite fit in with the neighborhood. But yeah, I was like, okay, there's going to be at least a handful of kids. We moved from more of a suburby kind of area, and last year we got 10 kids. So I'm like, okay, we've got to at least get around there. Nope, one kid.
Hopefully you didn't end up buying, like, huge box of whatever, like, candy and what. As long as you don't get, like, those bagged chips. Bagged chips, worst thing ever. Seriously, awful. That's for another time, though.
Okay, no. The worst thing ever is there was a guy on our block when we used to go trick-or-treating that gave out cans of grape soda. That is the worst thing.
I kind of like grape soda.
Grape soda's the worst. You're wrong.
Well, see, the thing is, he would always just have, like, the cases of Crush that has all of them. Maybe you just got bad luck and always got the grape soda.
Just got grape every single year.
Maybe he planned ahead that one year as he was putting into your, like, little Halloween candy bag, you frowned, and he's like, that bitch, I'm gonna give it to her every year. So you just always got the grape soda. Maybe everybody else got, like, cream soda or whatever one they prefer, but he just
I still
didn't
think
like
cream
you.
soda is terrible too. Not as bad, but still terrible.
Okay, so how are we related? How do you dislike cream soda? It's good.
It's just like, I'm sure this is a selling point to everybody but me, but it's just liquid cotton candy. I can't drink that.
That is the selling point. Hey, do you like cotton candy? Good. Here it is. Drink it. That's what it is, basically.
I know. But speaking of when you said don't buy too much candy, well, we got 3 boxes of candy, and my husband already ate pretty much a whole one before Halloween happened. So
to be expected.
Yeah, at least it was less than just sitting around. It's still going to go to use.
Yeah. So, how's the new house going? Got everything moved in and whatnot? All set up as you'd like?
Yes, so pretty much everything's good to go. Like, we were mostly moved in maybe a week or so after we moved. I I just can't stand living with boxes all over the place and tripping and not knowing where things are. Like, the day we moved in, that evening I had the whole kitchen unpacked at least, and we both had a week off work, so we just unpacked everything and got a bunch of stuff ready. So we've been pretty good. We've been fairly settled in since we moved in. We've been about a month here, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm the complete opposite, because I moved in where I am a little more than a year ago, and I still have some stuff that I just haven't put anywhere. It's just in a shopping bag sitting on my floor in my bedroom, because I haven't put it anywhere, and that's its spot now. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, see, it's good that we don't live together anymore, because I would go nuts.
Yes. And speaking of living together, you've got some tenants now. How are they doing?
Yeah, so they've been here about 2 weeks now. It's great. We bought a big house for us. It's just, my husband and I. We don't have anybody else. So we bought this big house because planning for the future, but who knows? And so instead of letting basically half our house go to waste, we're like, well, it used to be split into two units and was kind of remade back into a single family home. I thought, well, if we rent it to somebody, then it's not going to waste. And luckily, a couple of my friends were looking to move to the city that we moved to. And it just happened. It just worked out really well. And I'm really glad because we were debating like renting to students or, just random people looking for apartments. And it would have been way too crazy with basically strangers. I'm glad that they're my friends.
Well, that's good. It's good that everything's working out with them.
Yeah, and then we discovered that if they have a stove upstairs too, so if they turn on the stove and the dryer at the same time, it like blew the fuses. So that was fun. I just get a text of like, I think the dryer stopped. I'm like, oh god. So then we have to go into our creepy murder basement,
Yep.
where hopefully no one was murdered. Can't guarantee it, but the creepy spider-filled murder basement and reset all the fuses.
Yes, I have been in that basement. It is definitely creepy and somewhat murdery.
Yeah, it's all the turns. It like you walk down and it's the dirt floor and the stone walls, and you just walk through and it turns again, and there's like a corridor, and it's
Yeah, it is. It's a very odd layout.
Don't mock 1860. It's quality construction. Well, hopefully we might get it spruced up, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we should move on to our topic sort of today. So we do want to largely talk about movies and TV and pop culture and media and those kind of things.
Yeah.
So obviously the big movie that has come out recently is Marvel's Doctor Strange, which you and I saw together last weekend.
Yes.
So before we get to talking about the actual movie, I thought it would be fun to have just sort of a Marvel discussion on how we think the MCU is going so far. And naturally, since there are so many movies, I thought it would be interesting to list our favorites from all the MCU movies. And I asked you to compile your list, so we have done our homework. We both have our list of best to worst Marvel movies. Instead of talking about all of them right now, I think it would just be boring if we all just read our lists.
Yeah.
We'll put those up in the show notes, and we'll just talk about what we think are the highlights of the list. I think our top three is interesting because two of our top three are the same for both of us. So my top three is the first Captain America, Iron Man 1, and Guardians of the Galaxy.
My top one is the first Iron Man, second is the Avengers, and third, Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right, so obviously the difference is I put Captain America and you put the Avengers. So why the Avengers?
I think
which is your number two. So first of all, okay, so why does Iron Man number one, first of
all? Iron Man number one, I think maybe it's just, one, it's the most memorable to me because it's the one that I've seen the most, and it's kind of what got it all started as well. If they hadn't made that first Iron Man, there wouldn't have been any of the others, really. Mm-hmm. So, the first Iron Man I think I've seen maybe 3 or 4 times. The rest of them I've seen only once. So, it's most memorable to me because I've seen it more, so I just remember more about it. That's another reason why, referring back to my list, my 12th out of 14 is actually the second Captain America movie, Winter Soldier. I kind of half watched that one time when I was staying at your house. That one time that you were at a conference, I had to take care of the dog.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes.
So, I don't remember anything about that movie. I know main plot points, but it's just not in my head, me remembering it at all. Mm-hmm. So I don't like it because I don't know it. And I think that's the opposite with Iron Man. I like it most because I know it best.
Okay. And I think I put Iron Man 1 in there. I think it's a bit of the same thing. It's a bit of nostalgia. It kicked it all off. And actually making this list, go to Wikipedia, see all the list of the movies. I swore that the Incredible Hulk one with Edward Norton came out first. I was convinced. I'm well, we'll just ignore that because it's before Iron Man, and Iron Man is really the start, and that's where it all began. And I think there was an Easter egg in the Hulk, but I can't really remember. But it doesn't count. Iron Man came out first. It came out 2 months before, And I was like, no, now we have to include the Hulk. It's terrible.
I didn't even see that movie. I didn't see The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. I saw like the 2003 one, which was just entitled Hulk and was a steaming pile of junk.
I remember seeing that one, because it was Ang Lee and Eric Bana was like Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
And we saw it at the drive-in.
Yes, we did.
So it was you, me, mom, and dad in the car at the drive-in movie theater, and everybody hated it.
Yes, it was truly bad.
So I feel like The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton wasn't as bad as that one, but I put it at the bottom of my list. I think I've only seen it once, and I watched it for posterity just to say that I had seen it. I remember nothing about it besides that it had Edward Norton in it, and he hated it, / whatever. He always has issues.
Yeah.
But that's at the bottom of my list.
Then we both have Guardians of the Galaxy as our number 3 movie. I think we can both agree, which we do, that it is a good movie. It's just all around entertaining. I liked it. It's a fun movie.
It's solid. And I feel like the only downside to it is what a lot of people have brought criticism of the whole MCU for is the villain problem. And I don't really want to get into it this time because I want to save that for sort of a topic, maybe a full discussion on another episode. But I feel like that's the only downside. I think Lee Pace is amazing. I love him. If you have not seen Pushing Daisies, you have not lived. Please go watch it. But it's the villain, and I get that you have to associate yourself with the hero. You want to project onto the hero. You want the good guys to win, so the bad guys have to be able to be defeated and all that stuff. But it's just like blah. Like, even the design of it. What was his name? Ronan? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's just mediocre.
All right. For those of us who might not know, what is this villain problem? Is it just that they're all just like, hey, we're this big bad guy, but then gets trounced so easily?
I define the villain problem as something like that. Like no villain poses a real threat. And as I said, you have to have a villain that can be defeated. And in comic books, like the original source material, they get defeated every single week and keep coming back. And it's like, switching universes for a minute. And, why does Batman just never kill the Joker? Like, he's wrecking stuff. Just kill him, and then your problem's over. It's because he has to keep coming back so you can keep selling comic books and keep making movies. Like,
yes, but also with Batman, it's very much against everything he believes in to kill people. So
because you need to keep the bad guy alive, so you have a comic book every week.
Yes. But
it's a chicken or an egg situation. Is that a fundamental character trait or a character trait of the media that he is in?
I guess. And I guess
that is a checkmate. That is a point.
Yeah. Okay.
We need a tally score.
All right. And I think most evident. Well, maybe not the most evident, but another great example of this so-called villain problem is Doctor Strange that we saw this weekend, and I think it's even more so than some of the other movies.
So let's put a pin in that, and we'll come back to our full discussion.
Yes. Okay.
I
was trying to segue, but that's fine. We can come back.
I'm not done with my list. I still have so many things that I need to ask you about.
All right. Well, then continue.
So I want to preemptively defend my position to put the first Captain America movie as my number 1. So, Captain America, Chris Evans. But beyond that, I hope that sound translates well into the microphone.
It didn't, but we'll continue.
But putting that part aside, because I think all the Marvel movies are excellently cast. Like, I think that's another topic for another day is could they recast a part? But I think the first Captain America movie is the best of the phase 1s for character introduction and just overall plot. Like Iron Man 2 is Iron Man 1 is my number 2 choice, so it's still up there.
Yeah.
And I think it did an excellent job, reinvigorating Robert Downey Jr.'s career. And I don't think I could think of anyone more perfect for that part than him. But I just left the Captain America one. I just think that the acting was the best. The plot-wise it was the best of the first ones, because I mean the villain of Iron Man 1 was his like co-founder guy, and it's kind of like, okay, that's good. That's like a small sort of personal conflict, but it has larger implications. But Captain America, his first bad guy is the Red Skull. He's fighting his main dude. Like, stakes are high. This is World War II. I don't even know what era I'm in now. But
Yeah. To be fair, I do have the first Captain America movie as my fourth pick, and I do...
That's true. It did just miss your top 3.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's the least popular when I talk to other people. People are quick to pick Iron Man 1 as their favorite, like, first series, which is fine. I'm acceptable with that. Anyone who picks Thor, I'm like,
Yeah. We both have Thor pretty far down on our list. You've got it
Thor's 1 is number 9 for me and number 10 for you.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've put it down there. Again, excellently cast. I think it's very well acted. I liked Kenneth Branagh because he actually brings some color into something.
Yes.
And that's always a positive that I hear for the Marvels, is they actually have life in them contrasted to like the DC movies.
Yes.
But Thor, it was just the plot. It was the weakest of all of the phase ones for sure.
Agreed.
And it was just like, he's a dick. He gets his stuff taken away. He needs to learn to not be a dick. Oh, and now he gets his magic back. Yay! Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I do agree with you with Kenneth Branagh. I actually first learned of Kenneth Branagh as an actor in Wallander. It's a detective series based in Sweden, based off some like really well-known Swedish crime novels. And coincidentally, Tom Hiddleston is actually also in that as well. And so that's where Kenneth Branagh and Tom Hiddleston started working together. And I think he did a really good job of directing it. I don't know how much he directed before doing Thor.
He did a couple. I can't remember exactly, but I knew he was a director as well before.
Yeah.
I knew him as an actor first, like Hamlet and all that stuff. Like we watched him in Shakespeare in school. Like, you know, It's a rainy day, let's put on a movie. Oh, geez, it's English class. Now we have to watch Hamlet with Kenneth Branagh.
So I thought he did a really good job of directing it. It's not his fault that I didn't like the rest of it. He worked well with what he had, in my opinion.
I agree.
But getting back to Captain America, it only makes my top 4 because I think the other 3 are just a bit better than it. And I agree with you on all the points you made about it, but it just doesn't quite eke out that top 3 for me.
I think comparing sort of the list of the others and what Marvel's done well in the other movies, I feel like the only knock I have against Captain America, like the first one, is I don't remember a lot of humor in it. Like, I remember a couple moments of Tommy Lee Jones or Stanley Tucci. Like, they have a good couple lines, but the lead, like, you know, Steve Rogers isn't too funny.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, he's not supposed to be. But the other ones have more humorous heroes, which I think, like, you know, Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Ant-Man were cracking jokes the whole way through.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it's a downside to me, because it's not like there wasn't levity in the movie.
Yeah.
But the lead doesn't have that. He does seem sometimes like, you know, he's supposed to be the poster boy of good qualities and being a hero and doing what's right, so it's hard to give him a full character that way.
Yeah, he needs to be more stoic than the other ones. They're wisecracking philanthropist playboy billionaires, or whatever that line from it is. Whereas he is a very serious person to begin with.
He's all about the duty. He has the duty to his country, and he has the honor, and he just embodies it, and it's like runs through his veins.
Yes, very much so.
I think it gets better in the later movies, like with the Winter Soldier, when he has his little list and he's checking off the things he needs to catch up on, and he's running around the track, and he's like, on your left, and it, you know, he gets that later, and maybe it's coming detached of that situation of like he's completely fish out of water. This is not where he's supposed to be. So how can he cope? He has to adjust.
Yeah, and see, Winter Soldier, like, I don't really remember much about it, because like I had said earlier, I kind of like was half watching it one time at your house. And so, like, I remember key bits, but as for the other stuff in it, I'm just like, sure, it was a movie, and I saw it, and that's basically all there is to it for me. Whereas with some of the other ones, I've seen them a few times, and I know more about what happens in them.
Hmm. And those moments are able to stand out more, like the ones that you
Yes.
do really enjoy or do really hate in those
Yes.
movies.
Yeah.
I do want to point out before we move on, I do want to point out one travesty on your list that you didn't even see Civil War. You did not see Captain America Civil War.
I have not
Please
seen it
justify this.
yet. I've been meaning to. I just
That's
haven't
a lot of talk and not a lot of
yet.
watching.
Well, maybe I can do that before our next recording, and we can talk about it then. But I have been meaning to see it. I didn't go see it in theaters because you guys didn't invite me, and it made me feel bad, and now I haven't just watched it yet.
Well, I didn't think that we would be doing a podcast and talking about Marvel movies, unfortunately.
Well, maybe you should have thought about that.
I'm sorry that I live in a different city from you, and I would have had to come and get you and take you to a movie.
Yes, you live closer now, so there's nothing stopping you for the next movie that comes out.
All right, fair enough. So, moving on to Doctor Strange. So, Doctor Strange is actually number 4 on my list, and number 7 on your list.
Yes.
Oh, actually, another travesty. What the hell is Iron Man 3 doing in your number 5 spot? What the hell is that? Iron Man 3 is number 11 for me.
See, I liked Iron Man 3 because it showed a much more human side of him. That's what stands out in that movie for me. It's him dealing with everything that's happened to him, and it brings out a more human side. In all the other movies, it's like, hey, I'm millionaire, billionaire, I've got all this fancy stuff, look at how awesome I am. But in that one, he's broken, and it makes him a lot more relatable. And I like it. It's a decent movie. I think it's good. Him being more human raises it up to my number 5. If not, it would still be definitely in my top 10.
So, I didn't like Iron Man 3 as much because I did put it above Iron Man 2, but Iron Man 3 to me was a real rehash of the themes of Iron Man 2. So, I think it's the Story 2, Toy Story 3 problem. It's the same story, just some different set pieces. So he is dealing with like the fallout of New York in Iron Man 3, but I mean, he was all depressed and alcoholic and whatever in Iron Man 2. He was like having parties and being drunk and like shooting off weapons in his party. Like it was crazy, Iron Man 2. And
I just didn't like the villain or anything that really happens in Iron Man 2. That's why it's number 9 on my list.
And that's why Iron Man 2 is lower than Iron Man 3. So villain-wise, it is a little better. I wasn't offended by the twist of the Mandarin. Spoilers. Spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing with your life?
It's your own problem, but
exactly.
I figured it.
Anything out of 6 months, and it's fair game, really.
But anyway, so I didn't hate the twist of the Mandarin being an actor. Like, I love Ben Kingsley. He can pull off anything.
Yep.
And I think he was excellent. And I did not see that coming. I don't think anyone saw it coming, and I thought it was friggin' hilarious.
Yes, it was good.
So that's why it bumped up to me above Iron Man 2. But other than that, it's kind of still forgettable for me.
Yeah.
All right. But anyway, so Doctor Strange is number 4 and for me, and number 7 for you.
Yeah.
So let's actually talk about why we liked it. So me, it's sort of near the top of my list, and you, it's a respectable middle of the road. So how about you give us a brief plot summary of the Doctor Strange movie?
All right. Brief summary. Dr. Stephen Strange, world-famous neurosurgeon, gets into a very serious car accident, has massive nerve damage in his hands, and can no longer work as the doctor that he was before. So, he's doing physiotherapy, and the person that he's working with mentions that he knew a guy that had broken his back, was completely paralyzed from either the waist or the chest down, and somehow miraculously walked again. And so, Strange seeks out this guy to try and find out how. How is this happening to you? How can you walk again? And he wants to see if whatever this guy's doing can work for his hands. And so, he finds out from this guy that he has to go on this journey to find this place. He finds this place, and it turns out...
Karmitage. What was it called?
Something like that. Karmitage, something along those lines. I couldn't really remember.
In Tibet. Good
so
old Tibet, where all the monks live.
Yes. And so he finds this place. Turns out they're all magic. That's how it works. Magic. Without getting into all like the minutia of it, turns out this guy was using his newfound magic powers to harness magic to make his legs work.
Okay, I think you need to summarize without using the word magic again.
Well, seeing as how it's all about this ethereal power, it's going to be hard to talk about this ethereal power without saying the other word for ethereal power. But suffice it to say, things go awry, and Strange is drafted into a fight between these very powerful wizards, I guess you could say. And so he becomes an unwitting hero and ends up saving the Earth.
Isn't that nice when that happens?
Yes. Now, I know I've left out quite a bit in my summary, but I think we all get the gist of it. Guy breaks his hands, tries to find out how to fix his hands, ends up saving the world.
Gets superpowers.
Pretty much.
And again, this movie is brand new, so I will issue the full spoiler warning. We will be talking about actual details, plot twists, all that jazz.
Yes.
So I do encourage you to see Doctor Strange before, but let us continue.
Yes.
So my initial thoughts, obviously I liked it. It is my number 4. I don't really know comic books. I get a lot of backstory because I married someone who likes comic books. So I knew a bit about Doctor Strange before going into this, but I really go to these movies as a lover of movies, not of comic books.
Yeah.
I will admit that I don't tend to like Benedict Cumberbatch or whatever people on the internet call him, something or other cucumber, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't tend to like him. I think it's one of those, when everyone tells you how amazing something is, you just like don't care anymore. Yeah. Oh my god, he's so great. Oh, I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. I don't need to watch that. So the few things I have seen him in have been okay, but I'm not going nuts over it.
Have you at least seen BBC's Sherlock? Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, you're giving me about Civil War, and you haven't seen Sherlock.
I have not seen Sherlock. I can give you over a lot of stuff you haven't seen. Guess who hasn't watched Stranger Things? That's what we're going to have to make you watch one day.
Remember this whole, I haven't seen it yet. I always had that little yet
well, I
to
haven't
it.
seen Sherlock yet.
Well, do it.
So I haven't seen the big thing that he's been in because everyone won't shut up about the thing. So I feel like it doesn't need me to be its cheerleader too. So I have seen him, like in Star Trek, I saw him in The Hobbit, and I've seen him, I never watched that Sonja movie, that looked terrible. Yeah. But this, I very much enjoyed him in this. I was worried about the accent, but I feel like he pulled it off. I'm not an American, and I'm also not British, so I don't know if those two people like can decide if they like his accent or not. But I thought look-wise and like mannerism-wise, I think he pulls it off. I know a lot of doctors in my day job, and yeah, they're like that. Doctors are jerks is what I'm saying.
Yes. All right. I feel the same way. Well, kind of. Like, I have seen him in Sherlock. I think he's really good in that. He plays a very arrogant person, and that translates well to him as Doctor Strange. As for any other kind of like thoughts about it, I have it ranked lower than you do. I've got it at number 7. And it's a good movie, but I feel that the magic that he used in it kind of feels like a cop-out to me. Like, again, big spoiler warning, but he essentially manipulates time and goes on, just erases everything that happened. And that feels like a huge cop-out to me. It's like, oh, the city was destroyed. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't.
And definitely he used that as the big final thing, and oh, the world is literally going to be destroyed. Time to rewind it right now. But people die and other things happen before that, and he's like, what? Like he doesn't rewind time then,
Yeah.
and he saves it for the end when he remembers that he can do that.
Yeah.
And I know that the sort of point of his journey is he went from being this surgeon who was the best at everything and like amazing, and he's like top of the world and all this stuff, and as he's learning magic, he's trying to be that person again. He's trying to be better than he is right now, and that's what gets him in trouble. And so all these big fight scenes, he's fighting like the big bad guy who's trying to end the world and all the stuff, but then all he can conjure is like this little rope, and it just seems so like the environment is cool, like the way the bad guys manipulate the environment and like gravity and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But then he just has like this little rope, just runs, like he can't do anything yet.
Yeah.
That time thing, that last little gimmick he has is all he has.
I feel the same way. Like, it starts off with him, like, learning the ropes to all this magic stuff, and he can't get it, and then he gets slightly better at it. But what he's been doing is just reading literally everything in the library that they have there. And so he's learning all this stuff, he just can't do it. And then he kind of stumbles across this time manipulation.
And then he can do that spell. He can do like
Yes.
the hard time changing spell, but he can't like barely teleport. Like he needs to learn to walk before he can run. He needs to remember he's not a doctor anymore.
Yes. Overall, like you did mention, like, the manipulating of the surroundings, I thought looked brilliant. It looked really, really good to me. Like, normally, I'm not a fan of 3D movies. Like, we did see it in 3D, and I'm not usually a fan of 3D. I find them a lot more gimmicky than not. But in this, the 3D was absolutely necessary. It made it look so much better.
Yeah, and I hadn't talked about the visuals too much or like the quality of them, just because it's a given. Like I try to avoid a lot of information going into movies. I don't really watch trailers. I try not to read about the production schedules and like all the stuff like that. I try to let the movie impress me on its own, or not impress me on its own.
I'm the same way. Like, going into Doctor Strange, I'd seen, like, one commercial on it for TV. I didn't watch the trailer. I don't really know anything about the character. So I went into it essentially blind.
Yeah, and so that was the only thing that sort of penetrated my media blackout bubble, is that it's amazing looking. And, you know, Doctor Strange is one of those psychedelic heroes. Like, it was the 70s, and, like, part of the whole comic book was, like, the look of it. And, you know, I think it looked absolutely amazing. And I'm so glad that, you know, we can see movies in this time where we have this ability to make anything we want come to life.
Yeah. Like, I had gone into work the day after. I was talking to I work with my father, by the way. And so
Our father.
Oh, yes. So I was talking to him about it because I had mentioned that we were going to see it, and he said, "Oh, how was it?" And I didn't want to talk about it too much because I knew that I'd be talking to you about it this week, so I didn't want to say everything multiple times. But one thing that I said to him was, it was visually stunning. It was great. And the way that I described the New York chase scene to him, where all the stuff's moving, I described it as MC Escher's wet dream. Like, if you've, like, if you've ever seen anything, like, done by MC Escher, you're just like, oh, yes, that makes complete sense. I think that's the best way to describe it. Like, whole sections of the city are just being turned and manipulated and broken down and recombined. It looked so good.
The famous
so good.
MC Escher painting you're thinking of is called Relativity. And if you just picture Relativity but made of like skyscrapers, that's exactly what you get. It's amazing.
Yes. I was looking at that, like, I was thinking to myself, this is the first time that 3D has impressed me. There was no reaching out into the audience gimmicky shots at it at all. And it just looked so good.
I remember the first 3D movie I saw was Monsters vs. Aliens. And I remember the opening shot of the movie is a guy sitting in a chair playing with a yo-yo, and the yo-yo is coming at the screen. And I sat there and thought, really? Like, really? This is what we're doing? And I'm happy to see that since then, movies have been more subtle with it, but it is still like you got to throw it in, make it worth people's money, and this is definitely worth it. 100% no gimmicks. So
Yes, I can't say it enough. It was spectacular.
also, funny story, we can never take Dad to see that movie because Dad is legally blind in one eye,
Yep.
and so the 3D glasses don't work for him. I found that out the hard way by taking him to a 3D movie, asking him how it was after, and he said, it's good, it's a little blurry. He sat there the whole time with the glasses off because he couldn't do anything with them on.
Yeah. The worst bit about that is we took him out for his birthday as well.
It was Father's Day.
Was it? I thought it was his birthday.
It was Father's Day because it was the first, like the Superman.
Man of Steel.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, after that, we just kind of like both looked at each other and we're just like, oh, crap.
Oh, we are the worst children ever. Happy Father's Day. I took you to a movie you can't even watch.
Well, he could watch half of it.
So, one other highlight I thought of Doctor Strange was the relationship with his love interest, Christine Palmer, or played by Rachel McAdams. I feel like that might be one of Marvel's issues too. So, we'll come back to the villain problem because I think this guy fits in with the villain problem.
Oh yes, by far it does.
I feel like they also have a relationship problem. So, I'm obviously a girl, but I'm not really into romantic comedies. The odd one hits the right notes and stuff, and they're entertaining sometimes. But overall, it's not for me. But if you're going to put a relationship in a movie, at least make it believable.
Yeah.
So going back to our little list here of the movies, Captain America, I think his relationship. Oh, what's her name? Shoot, I'm the worst. Peggy. I think they are good. When he starts dating Peggy's like great niece or whatever in the last one, like what was that? Like that is just out of left field. Like, oh, we were kind of neighbors. We sort of flirted in the hall. I didn't see you for a little while, and now you're at my aunt's funeral. Time to make out. Like, what the hell was that? And I know you didn't see Civil War, so you're a little bit lost about what I'm saying right now. But trust me, it was horrible. And then, Avengers Age of Ultron, suddenly Black Widow and Bruce Banner are making out? Like, what is that? Like, yeah. You can't just mash people together, Marvel, and be like, oh, well, I like her and I like him, so I'll like them together. Like, no. Like, what?
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of the relationships have been lacking. There's been a few, like, I guess Star-Lord and Gamora aren't the worst, and I guess I saw a bit of a teaser or something for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it looks like they might be expanding on that, but again, they didn't fully get together. That wasn't really in the plot. Again, they flirted a little bit, and that was it. There was no relationship.
Yeah.
But I feel like Doctor Strange and Christine Palmer feel real to me. Like when they're together, you can see the chemistry. Mm-hmm. And there's that like one scene where they're like kind of gonna kiss, and then she just goes and kisses him on the cheek. Like I felt that. Like, yeah. And I don't think I've felt anything in the other movies between the two people. Oh, can we also talk about Thor and how Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth have like zero chemistry, like yes. Zero. I think those ones are where they try to promote the relationship the most, and it falls apart the most.
Yeah.
So we've danced around the issue enough. Let's talk about the villain. So Caecilius is a former student of the Ancient One, who is now teaching Doctor Strange the magical ways of the universe. So Caecilius was a student, discovered that there were sort of secrets that he wasn't being told, and powers he could harness from the dark side, and all those things that villains get in their heads.
Before we go on, we just need to explain kind of where the magic comes from. In Doctor Strange, they explain the magic by saying they're drawing power from different dimensions.
True, yes.
So, like, there's the Earth dimension, which is our normal universe, where everything else in the Marvel movie universe is set. Then there's the what was it, the mirror universe that you can
Mirror dimension.
mirror dimensions, sorry,
That's
that
okay.
you can manipulate everything, and it has no effect on the normal universe, but it looks exactly like it. And so that's actually the dimension that the New York chase scene that we were talking about earlier takes place, and that's why they can manipulate all of New York basically like they were doing. And so Caecilius finds out about the dark dimension.
So the dark dimension is controlled by a sort of all-powerful god being called Dormammu, which is great to say. I love saying that. And you have to say it that way. Dormammu.
Maybe you do, but not everybody does.
Okay, just try it. Just say it once. Humor me.
Dormammu.
No, you have with some flair. Come on.
Dormammu.
Okay, you're beyond help right now. But Dormammu likes to take over other dimensions and like incorporate them into his dark dimension, and I don't know, take over stuff. And they don't really. Does it give him pleasure? I don't understand. Like, does he get power from it? He just wants to take over stuff, and for some reason, he really wants Earth.
And you don't question it. It just is.
It just is. So Caecilius is trying to get Earth, absorb it into the dark dimension, so that he can be all powerful with Dormammu. And obviously, Doctor Strange tries to stop him. So, Caecilius is obviously a bad guy, and Dormammu's kind of a bad guy. Like, Dormammu doesn't really have motivation besides eat everything. Like, just everything come into the dimension.
Yeah. See, with Dormammu, it's kind of like, is a lion a bad guy because he eats a zebra? Like, it's just who he is. Like,
yeah,
Dormammu
he's like an earthquake.
Eats
it's like
universes. That's what he does.
He's a volcano. He's like the universe volcano. He just takes over stuff, and he just, can you vault him?
Yeah, he's not a person. He's a force of nature in the dark dimension. It's just.
But he does have a consciousness, clearly. Like,
yes,
he can make decisions, but it's yeah. I like your lion analogy. Like, obviously, lions have consciousness too, but they have to eat the antelope. Also, fun fact. Dormammu is also played by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Really?
Secret cameo.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Because that guy just loves him some mocap.
Sure does.
Gotta get all those little tennis balls all over his face.
Ping pong balls, not tennis balls. Tennis balls are way too
Well, they're probably
large.
even smaller than ping pong balls, too.
Yes.
They're like little beads.
Packing peanuts.
So Caecilius is our main villain in this. And I do feel like he falls into the villain problem. So he's not the smartest guy with his plan. He doesn't really realize that when the whole Earth is destroyed, he's destroyed too. Like, you haven't thought this one through, bud. Like, yeah. And I mean, he doesn't really have a lot of speaking lines. I'm trying to think of like things that he says. It's not a lot, except like get him and like destroy things, and I feel like he doesn't even really explain in his own words what he's doing. We get all his exposition from the Ancient One, or from Mordo, or wasn't Mordo? Whatever, the guy. What's his name?
I don't know, but I know who you're talking about.
This is gonna be very entertaining. What's his face?
One's like right-hand man, whatever his name was.
I think it's Mordo.
Mordo, something along those lines.
But they tell us what he wants. Like, Caecilius doesn't even say what he wants in his own words, really, until it's like the final battle, and he's like, you can't stop me, and we're going to get absorbed. And, it's not until the last, 15 minutes where he actually says what he wants.
Well, he kind of explains a bit in the New York Sanctum bit, when Strange has him in that binding contraption thing. He kind of explains a little bit, and then the other bad guy comes up behind Strange and they get distracted. But even then, I agree with what you're saying. He never gives his own motivation. Everybody else is telling Strange what this guy's motivation is. I agree with you that he says almost nothing, but one of my favorite bits in the movie is the Mr. Doctor bit.
Yeah.
It's just so it's such a stupid joke, but it's so funny because you don't really see it coming because they're both very serious about it.
But, okay, I didn't even think about this till you just said that. Caecilius is a human being. He's lived in the world. He knows what the friggin' doctor is. Like, when he... What?
Yeah.
You know what a doctor is and that it's a title, not a name. Like, I just thought how silly that was just now. But going back to that scene where he has him kind of in the contraption, and Caecilius is like, oh, Dormammu's all powerful, and he's going to give us eternal life, and I guess that's his motivation. He doesn't want to die, and then that, whatever. Time makes fools of us all. But he's trying to convince Doctor Strange to let him go and to join the evil side. And, it's a fake out, I guess. Like, he almost pauses and actually considers the offer. But would anyone take that offer? Like,
nobody in their right mind would. Because if you think about it for like 30 seconds, like you said, oh, Earth gets destroyed, I'm on the Earth, oh, I guess I get to get destroyed too.
So, I think that Caecilius is forgettable, but I think almost you have to be as a villain, because the next movie has to be kind of bigger and better. Yeah. So the next one, spoiler alert, Mordo becomes the villain, and I think that's going to be a lot more character, because now we've spent time with him. Like, he was our sidekick the whole movie. Like, we know a bit about him.
He also has clear motivation as well. Basically what it is, again, massive spoilers, but the Ancient One was actually also harnessing power from the Dark Dimension to stay alive as long as she has. And so Mordo is very angry with that. He was taught by the Ancient One, don't have anything to do with this, it's awful, it's the worst thing you could possibly do, don't mess with the natural world. And what Strange does is messes with the natural world, thus saving it. And so even though he saved the world, Mordo's like, that's not cool, bro, and pisses off, basically. Not quite in those words, but essentially...
I wish he had said those words.
But I can see where he's coming from, but then I don't, because you also see that breaking the rules that he holds so dear worked out very well. So, I don't know. But I'm looking forward to the second one.
Yes, as am I. I'm looking forward to Doctor Strange being more powerful. I'm assuming there's going to be obviously a bit of a time jump. Even between the end of the actual film and some of the post-credit scenes, it seems like some time has passed as well. So I'm looking forward to him being more powerful, so you get not just the environment of the action sequences, but like what they're doing to each other. And that was another thing with the fight scenes with Caecilius. They draw power from the dark dimension and the mirror dimension, but all they make is these like shards of glass, like spears that they just keep stabbing people with. It's like, you guys have magic. You can do like anything, and you make little shards of glass. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's also another thing I didn't really like about a lot of like the fight scenes, is they weren't so much fight scenes, more as run away from the bad guy scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the entirety of the New York scene is essentially just evading getting stabbed.
Yeah.
And there could have been so much more done with it. It's like they didn't know how to properly show magic fights, so they kind of avoided them.
Yeah, I think that as well. Like, and I think that comes with like Doctor Strange doesn't really know what he's doing, so he can't really fight back. So I am really looking forward to the next one for sure. I want to spend more time with Doctor Strange. I like him as a character, and I like Christine as a character. I like Mordo as a character. So I'm looking forward to spending more time with them.
Yeah.
So I think the big controversy around Doctor Strange when it was being produced was, of course, the casting of Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. So in the comics, the Ancient One isn't of a particular race, as far as I know, or it's like alien race or something like ancient that doesn't exist anymore. But either way, he was very stylized as A male, and B as Asian descent. Like, if you think of kind of a Tibetan monk sort of archetype, that's exactly what he looked like. And it's hard because obviously we're both coming from this as a place of we're both white. And of course I'm not super offended because, you know, it's not my culture that's being whitewashed over. But do you feel like that's fair? If the ancient one in the comic books was kind of an undefined race, is it okay to change it? Or how do you feel about Tilda Swinton?
Going into it, I knew nothing about the comics, so I didn't know that the Ancient One was depicted as any one race. I knew nothing about it, so, like, I can see where people are coming from, but on the other hand, I don't really care. I know that sounds kind of callous, but it's a movie. If they want to do something with a character, why not? Like, would it be nice if they were Asian? Sure, but it doesn't change the movie, that character's race. It just doesn't matter in the scheme of what happens in the movie. Like, if you hadn't have said anything about it, I wouldn't have known, and I still wouldn't have cared. So, it does sound very callous, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think I'm going to take a little bit of a different stance. I will say that I very much enjoyed Tilda Swinton's performance. I think she's amazing. I think she's amazing in everything she does, and she always plays these really weird characters, and she has this, like, androgynous, like, otherworldly sort of look about all her characters. Like, she can play those kind of undefined things. But I feel like they should have gone with someone Asian. Like, they've been doing such an amazing job with casting it, and I said it earlier, like, that's a big benefit of the Marvel movies, is they've been finding these, like, perfect people for I would say almost all of their roles. And the fact that they couldn't find someone like any ethnicity of Asian, like no one Japanese, Korean, from Nepal, like, and I'm sure someone would probably have an issue if a Japanese actor was cast for kind of someone who's supposed to be from Nepal, but there's got to be enough people that are qualified, talented actors that someone could have done that. And, you know, one thing that I was going to say is I love that she's a woman. I love that. And because I'm a woman, and I think representation matters. And to see a character, like, obviously I'm not going to relate to someone who's magic. That's never going to happen. But it's nice to see who you are sort of represented on screen in that way. So I wish they could have found someone Asian to play it. You're going to get some hate mail, is what's going to happen.
Probably. But it's a character. They have free license to do what they want with the character. If the screenwriter or director, in their mind, was picturing one thing, why shouldn't they be allowed to show that the way that they imagined it? Like, yes, I know it's coming from source material, but it's also a new interpretation of the character. If it was based on real-life events and they changed the race of someone, that, in my mind, is completely different. It'd be like, I know this is a very hyperbolic, but if they made Martin Luther King not black, like, it would be
yeah,
very different.
That would almost defeat the entire purpose of the story.
Exactly, because in that context, race matters. Whereas in this, it doesn't. It could be anybody. All they have to explain about this character is, this person is ancient because they've learned how to stop aging by harnessing the dark dimension, sorry. The race doesn't have anything to do with the character in this context. Like, I don't know what it was like in the comics. I don't know if the race of this character was important, but in the movie, it's not. It could be literally anybody, because the only backstory given is, oh, I heard she was Celtic, and she's been alive for a long time. That's her backstory, and it could be easily swapped with anything.
So I actually had something explained to me once that I thought was very interesting to me, and I think about this a lot. This is about sort of a different population, but I was talking to someone who is LGBT, and I forget what show or what movie or something that we watched, and my friend was really excited about it because she said, it's you get a lot of gay characters. So their main trait is that they're gay, and that's their thing, and they're flamboyant, and they throw it in your face in the movie or the show or whatever it is, and they're a gay character. And she said it's so refreshing to see a character who is gay. And just changing that phrase of, they are a character and being gay is a part of it. It's not their whole thing. My favorite example of it is Happy Endings. So
Yes.
a show we both like.
Yeah.
So the character in that is gay, but you would not describe him like you could use that adjective like, oh yeah, he's gay, but he's also like a slob and he also like steals stuff, and Max is like gross and like all these other things. Like, it's not his only thing. He's not a gay character. He's a character who is gay.
Yeah.
And I think like that's really important to sort of normalize it. So although it's not maybe necessarily their key feature, like, Martin Luther King, where the whole point is he's fighting racism. But if you're in a movie and a character happens to be Asian, like, it's not that their Asianness fully defines them and it's their key feature, but the fact that they're a character and they're there and they're important and they're also Asian. Like, I think if that makes any sense, I think that's a way to go as well.
But on the flip side, if the Ancient One was, let's say, stereotypical-looking Tibetan monk, would people not also have an issue with that because it's so stereotypical? Like, yes, I understand that it would be nice to have an Asian person playing that, but if you're only having an Asian person play it because you need to have an Asian person playing it, it doesn't matter anyway. Because
So it's better to have a good character and a good actor and a good experience than necessarily using that
to check a
diversity
box.
for
Exactly.
diversity's sake.
Exactly. Like, from my viewpoint is, I want a good actor for a role. I don't care anything about that actor as long as they're good for that role. Tilda Swinton, I think, did a very good job in that role, and I'm happy with it. If they had found someone else, and they also did a good job in that role, I also would have been happy with it. But I don't like when they say it has to be this because it has to be this. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't think it has to be like that. Because if, like I was saying, like, if they did have an Asian person in it, how do we know that it wouldn't just become a caricature rather than a character?
True. All right. Well, I would love to see some responses, and please be kind to Adam. I feel like you might get a little bit of feedback, depending on who listens, if anyone listens. So I think maybe we can put that one to rest, because I think I agree. Tilda Swinton did an amazing job. I loved her in it, and I don't think that was ever really the issue. I don't think anyone was like, "Oh, Tilda Swinton's going to ruin this," because everyone knows she's good, and she does play those like very interesting characters. But it's something to consider. I think that's everything I have to say about Doctor Strange. How about you?
Yeah, I think that about covers it. Yeah, I can't really think. I'm trying to think on the fly, and that doesn't always work out very good for me. But overall, I'd say it was good. Not my favorite movie, but
So you seem to give it about a 50% of your rankings of Marvel. So you're in the middle. I'm sort of near the top. I'm like fourth. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next one, and I think everyone involved did a great job.
yes.
All right. So I believe that is our first episode come to a close.
Yeah, that should about do it. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you have any comments or feedback, we do have a Twitter. It is @_and whatnot. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next episode.